You're listening to Little Green Cheese, episode 60. Well, welcome back, Curd Nerds. I'm Gavin Weber, and this podcast is where you can learn about cheese making at home. Well, thanks for joining me again this week, and welcome to any of my YouTube followers who have come across from the YouTube channel. I put a little call out for any YouTubers out there who follow the cheeseman.tv YouTube channel to come across and have a listen to the audio-only podcast. One of the things I hadn't been doing was promoting this podcast actively over there. I'd definitely been promoting it the other way around, but not the other way around, if that makes sense. Yes. Okay. Now, because I've caught up with the Ask the Cheeseman questions on YouTube, I have a swag of email questions and I have a couple of voicemails. So what we'll do, we'll get the voicemails out of the way first, and we'll answer those. And then I'll do my very best in my best Australian accent, which that's what I've got. We will answer the questions for all the other lovely people, all the other Curd Nerds who have written in with a question or an observation or what have you. So let's do that now, shall we?
Hi Gavin, it's Jo over here in the UK, in Kent. I recently sent you an email because I'm a new cheesemaker. I've now got the courage to leave you a voicemail. I asked the question of what cheese could you recommend with a little bit of bite and also wouldn't take too long to mature. And you very kindly recommended the Caerphilly, which I will be making hopefully in the next couple of weekends. But the question I'd like to ask you is, I have 3 different areas where I can mature, and I'm not sure which one will be the best. I've got inside but out without any heating, and it's about 16 Celsius and only 50 to 60% humidity. Or out in the garage, obviously at this time of year it's much cooler, and that's 7 to 10.5 Celsius, and that's 80 to 80%, 88% of humidity. Or I also have a fridge outside, but I can only get it down up to 3.4 to 4.5 Celsius. And that's at 92% humidity. So I wondered, certainly for the Caerphilly and some of the other semi-hard or hard cheeses, which one you would recommend. I'm very grateful for an answer, and thanks very much. Your website is brilliant, and I've learnt so much in such a short time. Okay, thanks.
Well, thanks for your question, Jo. I'm hoping I can be of help. So I think the inside would be too warm, so 16 degrees, definitely too warm. I think that in the fridge would be definitely too cold, and Baby Bear says that in the garage would be the best. Now, there's a caveat on that, of course, that it would have to be safe, that no mice would be able to get to your cheese. Obviously, it would have to be somewhere out of the way that would be enclosed, and no vermin could get to your cheese. I'm not sure how you would achieve that, but I'll leave that to you. Certainly is the right humidity and the right temperatures to age your cheeses there. It would be preferable if, I don't know how you would do it, whether you put them in a box but I'll let you figure it out. It's the right temperature, it's the right humidity. How you keep them safe from harm, I'll let you figure that one out. But yeah, it sounds like you got the perfect place to mature your cheese. So all the best, Jo, and happy cheese making. I think Jo has another question, so let me just play that.
Hi Gavin, sorry, it's Jo again. I forgot to ask you, what would happen if I was trying to make, say, a Caerphilly or any other semi-hard cheese, and the temperature remained just too low. So say, for instance, I put it in the fridge and it was 3.4 to 4.5. Does it mean that the lactic acid does not produce in the cheese to allow it to ripen? Is that the correct understanding, or am I getting it completely wrong? Thanks very much.
Thanks, Joe. No, you're along the right lines. It just means that the lactic bacteria slows right down and in some cases goes completely dormant. I'm not quite sure. It depends on what strains you're using. It may stop completely, and down at those temperatures, most cheeses don't ripen very quickly at all. That's why the ideal temperature is around between 10 to 13 degrees Celsius is when they're at the right temperature where they won't multiply too fast and just go crazy and spoil your cheese, but they're slowed down enough that they produce the right amount of acid and create the right texture for the type of cheese that you've made. They've just found that over time, cheesemakers and mainly women cheesemakers over the ages, through one of the history books that I've been reading lately, which is very interesting. So hopefully that answers your question, Joe, and thanks very much. Don't be afraid to send them in any time you like. Well, that's all the voicemail questions we have this week. Don't be scared to send them in. You can just go to the contact page. So go to littlegreencheese.com/contact-me, and you'll see a web form to fill out to send me a question. Okay, on with the email questions. Right, the first one is from Amanda, and I believe this is our friend Amanda from Alaska. Amanda says, "Hi Gavin, thanks a bunch for your insight on smoking cheese. I just made Gouda following your video and added 1.5 teaspoons of liquid smoke in the final stirring stage of the cheese and curds before draining the whey and pressing. It smells smoky and is drying now, but I can't wait to try it in several weeks. Waiting is my least favourite part in cheese making. I will be sure to let you know how it turned out. I am now going to venture into the world of Camembert. I was wondering if I could wrap it in just regular wax paper or if I have to buy the specific cheese wrap paper. Thanks again for sharing all your knowledge on the wonders and joys of cheese. Smiley face, Amanda." Well, thank you very much, Amanda, for your question and letting us know that you've given the liquid smoke a go. I'm probably about 2 weeks ahead of you, so we will see what happens when I cut into mine. If it's a complete flop, then I've probably trashed every home cheesemaker's plans, but I doubt it because there are so many smoked flavoured cheeses out there. I'll get my words out in a minute. So many smoked flavoured cheeses out there on the market, and that's exactly how they do it. Anyway, so the Camembert question. So the Camembert paper, or the wrap, cheese wrap paper, is micro-perforated. On one side, it has it's kind of like a wax coating. Sorry, it's a wax-proof coating, and it's got lots of holes. The other side is kind of shiny, and what that does, it allows the cheese to breathe. So when it has Penicillium candidum all over, the white mold all over the cheese, it actually produces ammonia. And if you don't let the ammonia escape, it gets a terrible smell, and the cheese develops off flavour. So the purpose of that wrap is to let the cheese breathe and those gases to escape. So you could give it a try using regular wax paper. If it works, fantastic. They must have made Camemberts without it back in the old days. I'm pretty sure they just wrap them in something. I don't know. I can't find anything in the history book I'm reading on cheese. They don't go really too much into French cheese history. It's mainly the Romans, and then it skips ahead to the English and then American cheese history. So not a lot of French cheese history in the book I'm reading. So I'm not too sure how they wrapped Camemberts originally, but now they use micro-perforated cheese wrap. So give regular wax paper a try. It can't hurt as long as it's loosely wrapped, and see what happens. If it doesn't work out the first time round, obviously, during the ripening phase, then obviously you're going to have to change that out and lash out and buy some cheese wrap paper. Anyway, thanks for letting us know that you've given the smoked Gouda a try, and for your Camembert question, Amanda. And hope to hear from you soon. Okay, the next question is from Barbara, and Barbara is a regular commenter on the YouTube channel, and she sent me a few emails here and then. She says, "Hi Gavin, it's about feta cheese. What is the proper way to brine feta after it has had all of the whey drained off it? I've read that you should cut the feta into chunks, soak it for a day in the brine and let it dry, and then put it into storage. I have read that you should cut the feta into chunks, salt it for 2 days, drain off the extra whey, and then store it in brine for storage. Which is correct? I am a bit confused." Barbara from, I can't even say that word, Norgantuck in Connecticut, USA. Well, thank you very much, Barbara. Well, yes, I've seen both those methods in recipe books, and I believe from looking at YouTube videos on how they do it in Greece, both are wrong. What they actually do is they press it into blocks, quite large blocks. They put them into oak barrels. So they dry salt them first and leave them out. These are big blocks. I'm talking, I would say, 5 kilo blocks of feta, which is 10 and a bit, maybe 11 pounds. They dry salt all over the surface, and then they leave them out at room temperature for about 5 days, and then they throw them in a big oak barrel full of brine. The brine's not fully saturated, but it's pH balanced down to, from what I've read, and this is what I'm actually experimenting with this at the moment, it's between 5.2 and 4.8 pH, and that's a stable brine that allows the cheese not to go soggy, and you can keep it in there for long periods of time. Now, Greek feta and I think Bulgarian feta, very similar recipes, is actually stored in the brine for up to 12 months before they actually take it out and ship it internationally. So what I've done is a kind of a combination that I've actually made another video tutorial. So what I basically did was make a 10% brine solution. I pressed my feta block that I made out of 4 litres of goat's milk. I put it into the brine, and it's still sitting there at room temperature. I made it on the weekend just past, and it's not going slimy, which is fantastic, and it's absorbing, a decent amount of salt. It's not the fully saturated brine that I normally use, which is at about between 16 and 18%. So it's not going to be as salty as those cheeses that I, brine salt and then take them out after 12 to 24 hours. This is a long-term solution for storing and initially salting it. When it has been floating on top of the brine, I have been just putting a little bit of salt on top. Not very much, not as much as I would if I was brine salting something like a Gruyere or a Parmesan or any of the normal cheeses you've seen on the video channel that I would normally brine. Just a light, and then flip it over, lightly salt again, and then flip it over again, and then leave it. So I turn it once a day, leave it at room temperature for the flavours to develop for about 3 to 4 days, and then what I'm going to do is take it out, and then I'll put that into the fridge for storage. I'll cut it in half, we'll eat half, and I'm going to see how long I can store it for. I would say that it says in the recipe that I've got that it says it can store up to 4 months. I reckon I'll be able to store it a lot longer than that. So that's what I do. So I think probably all ways are okay. I have done it this method that I'm doing it. I've done it about 4 times before, but never with goat's milk, always with cow's milk. So I don't think there'll be much difference, even though goat's milk's got a little bit more fat content in it than cow's milk has. So, yeah, you can follow somebody who's done it tried and true. Hopefully that has helped out, but try your own way. If you want to follow the way I do it, then quite happy for you to do that, Barbara. But just for your info, it's 2 litres of boiled cooled water, and it's 250 grams of salt. So it's half of a saturated solution. You don't need to float an egg on it or anything like that. And we add a tablespoon of white vinegar, and we add a teaspoon of calcium chloride. We then test the pH using pH strips or a pH meter to see what the pH levels are at. And if we need to, then we add half a tablespoon more to get the levels right. Once you're between 5.2 and 4.8 pH acidity, then you're right to put the cheese in, and it won't go slimy. And that, dear listeners, is the reason why cheese does go slimy if you haven't got a balanced pH brine solution. Many people have written into me before asking, why does my cheese go slimy when I put it in brine? That is the reason. There is an ion imbalancement, so unbalanced ions in your brine that the fats in the cheese want to escape into the brine. That's why it makes the outside of it go slimy. I think I've got that right. Don't flame me if I haven't, but I think that's the pretty good reason. Anyway, thanks, Barbara, for your question. All right, the next question is from André. And André says, "Hi, Gavin. Thanks for sharing all your hard work and knowledge with us. I have a question for you and don't think you cover it in your Q&A videos. I will start to make cheese and wish to know what is the difference between waxing and sous vide for aging cheeses." Sous vide. Oh, right. I think he means vacuum packing. That I saw you unwrap your cheddar and seem to mature it in plastic. Is the sous vide make aging slower? Did the cheese cave humidity still really important in plastic wrapping? I have a sous vide machine and think it's easier to use than using wax. Thanks for your help. Wish you a great day. From your little Padawan curd nerd. Thanks, André. That's cool. Okay, so yes, these days plastic wrap is a lot easier to use. For your hardcore curd nerds, yeah, people like to use wax. Oh, look, I'm finding these days that a lot less trouble and fuss getting away with vacuum packing is the easiest solution, except for obviously soft and fresh cheeses. You can't do too much about that at all. You can't vacuum pack them because they go flat. You can't vacuum pack mold ripened cheeses because that just doesn't work either. So you can't really get away with that. So it's only the semi-hard and the hard cheeses that you can get away with. I even tried to vacuum pack Havarti, which was so soft that over time it started to flatten. Still tasted okay, but I just couldn't get away with that one. So avoid your really soft curd wash cheeses, but all the rest are fine. Perfect for you to age in plastic. And yeah, that sort of material is quite fine to use. They're all food grade plastics these days, those machines, and I certainly have aged. Well, I've aged Parmesan and Romano for up to 12 months, even a Montasio, I think that's right, for 18 months in plastic, and there were no off smells, no leaching, nothing like that, and it was fine. And the flavour was just fantastic. The cheese aged perfectly. So, look, I don't think there's any issues with using vacuum packing or sous vide. So give it a go. I have no issues with it whatsoever. I'm not one of those hardcore curd nerds. Whatever works as far as I'm concerned. Use the tools that are available to you as a home cheese maker. So enjoy, André, and have a great time making your cheese. Thanks for your question. Next question, and this will be the last one for today, is from Luke. And not sure where Luke's from. Now, Luke says, "Hey, Gavin, love the videos. My wife and I are huge fans and we watch your videos all the time. I'm the maker and she's the taster. Well, I think she's got, well, hang on, I think maybe you got the better end of the deal. My wife's the taster as well. Oh, and so are the puppuccinos. I have a question about the surface of the pressed cheese. I think my last batch of Gouda had too much surface area because it's slightly dry. Can you tell me a little bit about how surface area impacts drying and aging process? This wheel of Gouda was somewhat flat and wide, so it was more pancake shaped. I'm not sure if you've spoken about this in a podcast or blog post, but please point me in the right direction. Thanks and keep up the good work. Luke. Well, Luke, I think that surface area does play a big difference in your cheese. So back in the old days, I used to make a lot of small cheeses because they were fresh and they wanted them to stay as fresh as they possibly could. So they made them small so they could digest them quicker. As they needed to transport them further and further, they needed to make them larger. So they actually needed to make the cheeses drier. So they started making the cheeses larger. So the larger the surface area, the more they would dry out. So in the same case as you, that you had a bit of a pancake sort of cheese, you had a larger surface area for your cheese. So the cheese more moisture evaporates out of the cheese, the larger surface area that you have top and bottom. So even during air drying, you probably found that the cheese was a lot drier on the surface, and you may have found, depends on how you matured it. If you matured it naturally and had a natural rind, then it would have dried out even further. If you waxed it, you might have got away with it, but if it was still quite slightly dry, then yeah, it certainly will be the surface area. So it's only an issue if you let it air dry too long. It may be slightly dry because you may have overstirred it, or the heat might have been too high within the cheese itself. So there's maybe other contributing factors to your cheese. So hopefully that's answered your question, Luke. Yes, it could be one of the contributing factors to why it's a bit dry, but it may not necessarily be the only contributing factor. But anyway, thanks for your question and keep on watching the videos and listening to the podcast. Thanks, Luke and wife. You didn't say her name, mate. So she didn't get a shout out, sorry. Now, don't forget that I'm doing twice weekly videos over at cheeseman.tv. You can catch more cheesy goodness other than the podcast here. And also, my lovely wife and I, Kim, are running a beginner's cheesemaking course. I've got 2 positions still open on the 1st of April, which is a Saturday here in Melton. The course will be held at the Melton South Community Centre. So if you need any details, just shoot through an email through to the contact page at littlegreencheese.com and have a look there. This week's patrons are Jason, Sue and Luke. Thank you very much for your support. If you want to support the show and the YouTube channel, pop over to littlegreencheese.com/support, where you can pledge your support financially to keep the podcasts and videos flowing and to help me create these lovely cheese-making resources for free. Well, thanks very much, everybody. Or should that be a cow this week? There you go, you got both. Don't forget that you can pick up my ebook, Keep Calm and Make Cheese, at all good ebook retailers. You can also find a copy over at littlegreencheese.com. It's in PDF format, which actually includes QR codes that will take you to all of the associated YouTube videos for each recipe. It's a recent update. Thanks for listening to the podcast, Curd Nerds, and don't forget to send in your questions via the contact page. Until next time, thanks for listening and happy cheese making. During the show, you heard Malt Shop Bop and Call to the Dairy Cows by Kevin MacLeod. See ya.